Next, I'd like to bring our very own Newburyport's No More Fukushimas Bruce Skud to speak. Bruce has been working tirelessly. We've had many meetings in his living room, and he has been working mostly on the local political front to get the local townships, mayors, etc., to pass resolutions. So I'll pass the baton to Bruce.
Thank you, Christine, and thank you for introducing me after a speaker like that.
We'd have to follow on now.
And thank you for all the work you've done on this weekend. You've really, really, truly put your heart into this.
My pleasure.
Thank you for all being here to commemorate the first anniversary of the Fukushima disaster. I and my friend Joanna Hammond of Amesbury, I'm from Newburyport, got involved. We were inspired by VA and Steve when they did the 200-mile walk. We got to host them and some of the wonderful people from the pagoda. We will never underestimate the power of the pagoda, I will tell you, the Grafton Pagoda, or the folks who stayed. And we thank them for that. We started off, we said, oh, we can't let this stop. We've got to do something else. We've got to keep this going. And what we decided to do is start selling signs. The Stop Seabrook Relicensing, No More Fukushima sign, you see up there. And my wife is hawking them back there if you'd like any of our buttons or other bumper stickers. Thank you, Ellen. They cost $500 each. But we decided that was not enough. And as Christine just said we need to not only bring about public awareness through those signs, and we have about 150 or 200 of them up in Newburyport area. We started working on speaking to public officials, asking them to step up. I'm sorry to tell you, and I'll get into the specific problems at Seabrook, the most recent problems, in a minute, but we found that none of them knew anything about what was going on with the foundation, the concrete foundation at the plant at all. And it just made us work harder and harder. And we had a great model for us in the political area. We have Congressman Markey and Congressman Tierney, who have been, I think it's safe to say, so far out on front on this issue. We are very lucky that those two guys are in office. They're at the federal level, so we wanted to bring people, public officials on the state level. And we started meeting with folks, and I'm happy to say that a couple of months ago, State Senator Bador and State Representative, this is Massachusetts, State Representative Mike Costello, both signed identical letters calling, as Congressman Markey and Congressman Tierney have, for stopping the relicensing of the Seabrook nuclear power plant. What they did was terrific. And it's very helpful, because sometimes in the political area people don't want to make a move until somebody else makes a move. Mike Costello and his family have been venerable opponents of the plant for decades, and well, they were easy. But I'm happy to say that Senator Bador, and this sounds like a negative, but it's really a positive, he has never spoken out at one time about this plant. And he jumped in there first and wrote this letter calling for strong language, stop the relicensing. Now the local level. We were very fortunate that about 3 weeks ago, the Newburyport City Council wrote the strongest possible, I mean, aside from calling for complete shutdown of the plant immediately, wrote a really strong letter and passed a resolution unanimously calling for the stopping of the relicensing of the plant, and which is really exciting. I'm happy to say that last week the Mayor Holliday, signed the resolution as well. So all of our elected representatives in Newburyport are standing shoulder to shoulder against the plant. There's other developments underway, and in politics, I'm sure you just don't know until it comes, but we've had some, I would say, interim actions by two other boards of selectmen. The Salisbury and the Newbury Board of Selectmen both took an intermediary vote to indeed, and they did this unanimously, to also support a resolution. They have yet to meet to decide exactly what they're going to say, but this is a giant step and we are working in other localities. So we're going to keep at it. We're expecting another letter from a high-profile person soon. I don't want to put my foot in my mouth and say what it is and then everybody disappointed, but other people are chiming in on this, and we just think it's important to translate. Part of what we need to do is translate public awareness into action by our representatives, and that's what we've been doing. I'd like to I know all of you are opposed to nuclear power, so like Christine said earlier, we're preaching to the choir. But I just want to say a couple of things. Pardon?
So if you could turn your hymnals to page...
Right, yes. So turn to page. I just want to speak for a couple of minutes about the latest travesty at the Seabrook power plant. Paul, were you going to talk about this, and should I not talk about it?
No, you
Okay.
go right ahead.
All right. I've already discussed this with Doug. Basically, the folks at the Clamshell Alliance were visionary, because one of the objections that they raised decades ago was that by building that plant in a marsh, Mother Nature would take its toll. And it is. Literally, the alkaline in the groundwater surrounding that plant, the whole foundation was dug into a marsh, is eating away at the particular concrete they poured at this plant. The concrete has some sort of alkaline, crystalline structure that is susceptible to groundwater, and it's degrading. And that's the other thing that launched Joanna and I, because inspired by what happened at Fukushima, obviously, we saw something at our plant that made us think, oh heck, we're going down the same path. Basically, the marsh is eating away at the concrete plant, including safety structures, including electrical control tunnel B, which houses vital electric cables that feed the cooling system that is intended to prevent a nuclear meltdown. These are not things I'm making up. They're all described in NRC publication documents that are on our website. And these are the documents that, along with our testimony, we've been passing out to all of the representatives to read and actually taking them to the page. Since they don't know us, they can read for themselves what's going on. Not only are these safety structures involved, if that isn't bad enough, but they realize the concrete that was in some of these safety structures that are next to the foundation are no different than the concrete in the foundation. So wherever water comes in contact with the concrete surrounding the foundation, it's breaking down, eroding to the point where the NRC inspectors themselves have said this is from moderate to severe degradation. And I can assure you the Nuclear Regulatory Commission would not be using the word severe in a public document unless they really meant it, because it's alarming. It's alarming that they're using it. They've taken core samples from the concrete and determined that there's been only halfway through the current operating license a 22% decrease in the strength and integrity of the concrete. I'm not talking about the containment structure, by the way, maybe that's another story, but I'm just talking about the foundation. And as all of us know, you don't have to be a nuclear engineer to know that no building is stronger than its foundation. And what does this mean? Well, this means that every plant is supposedly built to withstand an earthquake, and this plant too. But I think it's just common sense that if this concrete is weakened, even though it's reinforced by steel rebar, that it may not withstand an earthquake should it occur as much as the design would demand. And by the way, there's a complete, Paul knows more about this than I understand that all across the United States, because of Fukushima, the NRC is rethinking the seismic activity standards that nuclear power plants should withstand. So enough on this part of it, but except on the technical part, except to say it's very disappointing, it's beyond disappointing, that the NRC Region 1 spokesman keep on saying that all these problems I just described to you are of very low safety significance. And it's outrageous that they're saying this. They're just trying to keep everybody calm and actually trying to dismiss public officials who have begun to speak out about this and silence them. One of the reasons, what makes this so difficult, and I think Doug here on my left is, they've never found a plan for any of this stuff. They've really never taken any significant action at all. And the reason is, and this is my subjective opinion, is that the NRC inspection process failed so badly to discover this early on that they've become an accomplice in this failure to fix the plant. Basically, what they've done, even though they're inspectors there all the time, basically every day of the week, they failed to find this degraded concrete before it got to the point where it's severe. Who would let this happen, at least at a nuclear power plant? It's outrageous. The next thing is another tale about this is that when the plant was built, going back to the Clamshell Alliance is concerned, there was a rubber barrier around the foundation of the plant in the marsh. And that was a membrane, they call it. And the intention of that was to keep the groundwater away from the plant. Now, apparently, the Seabrook has admitted, and the NRC knows this, that that thing failed almost upon installation. That, as a matter of fact, they're saying the installation of it might have had a lot to do with damaging it. It's in design, as the NRC likes to say, but the truth is it's never worked effectively from the beginning. They probably said, water's butting up against the concrete. What difference does it make? Every single, bridge in America goes into concrete. Well, this concrete was not that kind of concrete. It does not withstand contact with alkaline-based groundwater. And thus, this whole thing has, so when you combine the fact with the fact they've ignored the groundwater, they've ignored the groundwater barrier, they've ignored how bad the severe level of concrete degradation, which by the way has been going on for years, this did not occur overnight. I think it's obvious that they just haven't done an adequate job, and it's not because of budget problems with lack of inspectors. They have plenty. So this is why we are asking our public officials to write to the NRC and stop the relicensing of the plant. At a minimum, this plant should not be relicensed. That's where we stand. But if it's going to be relicensed or even considered for relicensing, they must fix the foundation, then abate the groundwater, and then test for years to make sure this is working. We do not want the relicensing to occur. But if it is going to be relicensed, we don't want them to give the plant the license, which they're scheduled to do next year, and then ask the plant to finally get around to do, after the license is issued, to rely on the plant to make these fixes, which could cost millions. So, thank you for listening.
Yeah.